When the front door closes behind my husband each morning, the silence swells like a tide in our apartment. It fills the corners of our neatly arranged home, presses against the walls, and settles over me as I move through my routine. Rohit's scent lingers faintly, his aftershave, his coffee, the ghost of a kiss on my forehead, then vanishes, replaced by a crushing stillness. That's when the ache begins. Rohit and I have been married for 7 years. The early days were tender, even electric, late-night conversations, shared dreams over chai, weekends spent wrapped in each other's warmth. But over time, work became his lover. He is a consultant now, always chasing deadlines, flying to cities I've never seen. He says he's doing it for us, for our future. But I miss our present. I miss him. At first, I filled the void with hobbies: gardening, yoga, the occasional painting. But plants don't talk back. Canvas doesn't ask how you slept. Some days, I would linger by the window longer than necessary, watching the world continue outside, as if it owed me some explanation for the way my life had shrunk to silent afternoons and reheated lunches. That's how I noticed him. Karen moved in next door last summer. I remember because the movers kept blocking our driveway and I had to go out to ask them to move. He stepped out then, tall, calm, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sorry about the mess," he said. "Moving chaos." We spoke briefly, just neighborly small talk. He lived alone, worked remotely, something in design. I forgot the details. What I remembered was how he looked at me. Not inappropriately, not boldly. Just directly. As if he was listening. Really listening. A few days later, he knocked on my door to ask about the internet provider in the building. I invited him in. It was innocent. He sat across the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a coffee cup, complimented the aroma of my brew, and asked if I liked living here. That conversation flowed like warm honey. For the first time in months, I laughed, not politely but freely. After that, he'd stop by now and then. Sometimes he brought pastries. Sometimes we just talked on the balcony, where no one could see us clearly. There was a natural rhythm to it, like a secret beat only we could hear. I told myself it was harmless. A friend. That's all. But friendships don't usually make your heart race when the doorbell rings. One afternoon, during the monsoon, he arrived unannounced, soaked from the rain. His shirt clung to his skin, hair dripping onto his forehead. "Thought I'd return your book," he said, holding up the novel I'd lent in the week before. I hesitated. Something shifted between us, something I could no longer ignore. The air was thick, not just with humidity but tension. He stepped inside, dripping onto the tile, and I handed him a towel. Our fingers brushed. I should have pulled away. I didn't. Instead, I found myself staring at his mouth when he thanked me. His lips moved slowly, deliberately. I realized how long it had been since someone looked at me with desire, not obligation. I realized, too, that I missed the sensation of being wanted. That day, he didn't stay long. But something had changed. I watched the door long after he left, my chest tight, my breath shallow. That night, Rohit called from the airport, telling me his flight was delayed again. He sounded exhausted, distracted. I told him to take care. We hung up quickly, the silence afterward more suffocating than before. In the days that followed, Karen's visits continued. But the looks lingered longer. The pauses between words thickened with implication. When he touched my wrist while handing me a plate, I felt it all the way to my spine. There were no declarations, no propositions, only an escalating awareness that we were moving toward something unspoken. And I didn't stop it. I told myself I was still in control, that nothing had happened yet. But I knew. We both did. The affair hadn't begun. Not yet. But the door was open. The silence had finally let someone else in. And I was no longer sure I wanted to close it. It happened on a Tuesday, quiet, unremarkable, the kind of day that disguises itself as ordinary until it changes everything. The morning unfolded as usual. Rohit left for the office just after 8. "Tai ask you?" Eyes on his phone. "I'll be late tonight," he said without looking up. I murmured something. What I don't remember. The door closed. Silence returned. But this time, It didn't stay long. Karen texted, "Coffee?" By now, we didn't pretend anymore. He didn't knock nervously. He came in like he belonged. We sat close on the sofa, knees almost touching, our voices low. We talked about nothing, the weather, a film he'd seen, but our eyes said everything. Every breath was a question. Every silence an answer. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe it was both of us. But when our lips met, the world didn't stop, it exhaled. Months of tension melted into that kiss. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was hungry, urgent, the kind that burns its way into memory. Clothes became obstacles. Rooms became irrelevant. We moved through the house like a secret storm, half shame, half ecstasy. And afterward, lying tangled in the sheets, I stared at the ceiling, heart thundering, lungs shallow. What had I done? But instead of guilt, I felt alive. My body, long neglected, hummed with something I hadn't felt in years. I turned to Karen, expecting awkwardness or regret. He just smiled, brushed a strand of hair from my cheek, and said, "You're not alone anymore." It was the most dangerous thing he could have said. After that, our affair took on a rhythm. Only when Rohit was away. Only in the daylight hours. Karen never stayed long. He always left before the light changed. But in that time, I became someone else. Someone bold, desired, unapologetically wanted. We had our codes. A missed call meant it was safe. 2 rings at the door. Curtains drawn. Music playing just loud enough. Sometimes, we didn't even talk. Sometimes, it was just the touch, the release, the escape. Still, I wasn't blind. I knew the risks. Every time I heard Rohit's key in the lock, a flash of panic struck. I cleaned obsessively, checked for any trace, hair, scent, anything. But Rohit never noticed. He was always tired, always distracted. When he smiled, it was absent. When he touched me, it was out of routine. At night, I lay next to him and thought of Karen's fingers tracing the curve of my spine. I felt like 2 women sharing the same skin, one loyal, one unfaithful, both painfully real. Sometimes I wondered what Karen truly felt. He never spoke of emotions, never asked me to leave my husband. He was warm, attentive, even affectionate, but there was a wall I couldn't see past. Maybe he wanted to keep it simple. Maybe he didn't believe in futures born from betrayal. Or maybe he, like me, feared what lay beyond the thrill. One afternoon, as we lay together, I asked, "Do you ever think about where this goes?" He looked at me for a long time before answering. "Do you want it to go somewhere?"
I didn't respond.
I wasn't sure I knew the answer. That evening, Rohit came home early. A rare surprise. I had to scramble, tuck sheets, wipe perfume, steady my breath. He walked in, kissed my cheek absently, and said, "Client canceled last minute." He opened the fridge. "Did someone finish the leftover painter?" My stomach dropped. I'd served it to Karen just hours before. I threw it out. It smelled off, I lied, forcing a smile. He nodded, unfazed. But I couldn't shake the image of Karen's fork scraping that same plate, his lips curved in laughter. The cracks were forming. Thin, almost invisible, but real. I'd built this world of shadows. But shadows shift with the light. And light inevitably comes. Still, I didn't stop.
Not yet.
The next morning, Karen came over as usual. As he slipped his arms around me, I whispered, "We need to be more careful." He kissed my shoulder. "We always are." But even then, I could feel it. The thrill had teeth. And it was starting to bite. It was bound to unravel. Secrets, like silk thread pulled too tight, eventually snap. It started with something simple. Rohit's forgotten wallet. He called me from the elevator. "Can you grab it for me? I'm already downstairs." I panicked. Karen had just left. His scent still floated in the hallway, the sheets still creased, the mug he used still warm. I dashed to the bedroom, shoved the mug in the sink, flattened the sheets with trembling hands, sprayed perfume in the air to mask anything else. By the time Rohit stepped back in, I was smiling, holding out his wallet like everything was normal. He paused, sniffed. Did you make coffee? Just now, I lied. My voice sounded too bright, too practiced. He stared for a moment too long, then took the wallet, muttered thanks, and left again. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next day, Karen didn't come. No message. No knock. I waited, uncertain whether I felt relief or disappointment. The quiet felt different this time, charged, like air before a storm. He came 2 days later. His eyes were unreadable. He didn't kiss me, just sat down on the sofa and asked, "Does your husband suspect anything?" I hesitated. "I don't think so. But you're nervous." "I'm always nervous," I admitted. He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Maybe we've been reckless." The words stung more than they should have. I swallowed. "Are you saying we should stop?" He looked at me, not with the usual softness, but with something more detached, measured. "I'm saying we're at the edge, and you need to decide if you want to jump." It was the first time he'd put the future entirely in my hands, and the weight of it crushed me. That evening, Rohit surprised me again with flowers. Yellow tulips. My favorite. "I saw them and thought of you," he said, almost shyly. "We haven't really connected lately, have we?" I stood frozen, tulips in hand, guilt curling in my gut like a serpent. His eyes searched mine, not with suspicion, but longing. A part of him was still trying. We ate dinner together that night. He talked about work less, asked about my day, held my hand while we watched an old film. I didn't know whether to be grateful or heartbroken, because for the first time in months, I wondered, what if I had just waited? Karen was right. We were standing on the edge, and I was tired of pretending I didn't know what was below. The next morning, I sent Karen a message. "Don't come today."
He didn't reply.
Not then. Not all day. And when I checked the peephole around noon, his door was open. Empty. His flat was being cleaned. That night, I stared at the ceiling, wondering if he'd taken my silence as an answer. If he'd walked away because I couldn't, or because he never intended to stay. Rohit came into the room, placed his hand on my waist as I lay curled under the blanket. "I know something's wrong," he said softly. I turned to face him. His expression was worn, eyes shadowed by late nights and quiet doubt. "I'm trying," he whispered, "but I can't fix what I don't understand." And just like that, the lie was too heavy to carry. But I didn't confess. Not then. I simply nodded and let his hand stay on me, cold and unfamiliar, but trying. In the days that followed, I filled my time again. Books, plants, early walks. I kept the windows open. The silence felt thinner, watchful. Karen didn't return. He became a chapter one reread in the dark. A danger I both miss and regret. Sometimes, I catch Rohit looking at me, as if searching for the shape of something he's afraid to name. He hasn't asked. I haven't offered. We are rebuilding something fragile, word by word, meal by meal, in the hollow aftermath of betrayal. But nothing fits quite the same, because once a line is crossed, even when you return, the ground remembers.